Today, I would like to make a video speaking on the morning. I'm currently on a backpacking trip in Southeast Asia, and I stay in hostels. So I get to see what a lot of people spend the first precious seconds of each morning doing, the first precious hours, and also the first, or when they decide to start their day. And I've truly been terrified, for I'm constantly bombarded with people who the first thing they do upon rising is look at their phone. The first thing they do upon rising is check social media. The first thing they do upon rising is lay in bed for an hour. And it baffles me. And then there's also the other group of people who I never even see, because they don't start their morning until the afternoon. And I know there's certain people who function better, or so they say, living this type of way. But we must know ourselves, and I think 95% of people, if not more, function better, get more done the earlier they wake up. And there's also things that don't seem so bad that we also need to, I'll let this motorbike pass. Sorry, I was just planning on going for a walk, so I didn't bring my microphone, so hopefully you can hear me well. But there's also people in the morning who do things that don't look as harmful, but are just as. There are certain things we should do in the morning and certain ways we should start our morning. And reading can be a good one, but choosing what you read is very important. And also writing, but choosing what to write about is very important. Now, I think the best thing to do is quiet contemplation, whether that be sitting still or walking outside, getting sunlight in your eyes. This, to me, is the most divine way to start a morning. But I also like to write in the morning, and I also like to read in the morning. And then this is where we get to how one form is good and one form is bad. I have hated on fiction for much of my life. I hated on reading for much of my life. But then I came to a position where I realized that reading was one of the most beneficial things that each and every one of us could do. But I came to the conclusion that that was nonfiction. And I think I've been unfair to fiction, for stories is how we learn best, and there's great fiction out there that we all need to read. So I'm sorry if you got the idea from me that I don't like fiction, because I didn't, but now I love it. But fiction should not be consumed in the morning. I believe. At least not the first wakings, the first hour. You also shouldn't reach for your phone. I forgot to state that. The people who do it the first second, that's just insane. But really the first hour should be no phone. But let's move past that. And reading fiction also should wait a little bit. We should be reading philosophy, or at least timeless fiction that is more philosophy than fiction. Books like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, Plato, Aristotle, Homer, Nietzsche, the people who tackled the most important questions in life, matters of utmost importance. There's obviously way more people to this list, but I'll let you fill in that list yourself. But these are the ways we must start our mornings, because how you start your morning is how you start your day. How you start a day is how you start a week. How you start a week is how you start a month, to a year, to a decade, to a century, to your whole life in this material plane. How foolish it is to get a bad start. The start is the most important. How you start and how you finish. But we're so foolish with our starts. We engage them in an offhand way, and whatever we want to do, as if doing what we want to do ever gave us what we needed. And how we end our day as well. This video is about the morning, or maybe it'll be about the morning and the night. We'll see how far I get into this, but I also see so many people on my backpacking trip, staying in hostels, doing these things, who need to watch sorry, I just don't know how good you can hear me, but I also meet so many people who need to watch videos before they go to bed, watch an episode of Netflix, scroll through reels. Why? The night is meant for reflection. The unexamined life is not worth living, as the great Socrates said. So why do we not examine our lives? It makes no sense to doom scroll at night. And these same people are the people who preach to you that they just can't wake up in the morning, that they're too tired, that they want to be well rested, that they can't get up that early. But at 10 o'clock, when you proclaim to the heavens that you need 2 hours of television, 2 hours of scrolling, and you get all that light in your eyes so late, it wakes you up. And of course you're not tired. You're blasting your face with light, engaging in an interesting story, swiping, getting your dopamine to go crazy. But if you just don't look at your phone, how many will not make it through the first 15 minutes, I wonder? And how many will get up at 6 o'clock completely rested, I wonder? Now, in this sense, ignorance truly is bliss, because before I never woke up early. Before, I was the type of person to stay up as late as I could, to watch as many shows until I fell asleep and I had to scroll back 3 episodes on Netflix to figure out where I was, the last thing I remember. And when I was in that mindset, when I thought that was peak life, it didn't bother me when I woke up at 9 o'clock. It didn't bother me when I woke up at 10 o'clock. I didn't comprehend it. It wasn't even a thing that passed my mind. It was just the time I woke up and the time I went to bed. And in the grand scheme of things, that's all it is. But when you realize how much more fruitful your life is, how much more divine your life is, when you wake up early, when you don't waste hours on social media, when you don't doom scroll at night, when you start your day off with quiet contemplation, getting sunlight, going for a walk, writing and reading, you realize how you can never go back to that way of life. Ignorance truly is bliss in this sense, because we don't know. We don't know all that we're missing out on. We don't know all that we are being deprived of. But once you know, you can never go back. Once you realize the truth, how can you go back? How can you go back? And that's why I never blame others. And I never blame others for their way of living. And it's impossible to know if these people truly are night owls or if they truly are coping. But one thing is for certain in my eyes: to start the day off with the phone is not smart. The morning is the most divine part of the day, and to interrupt your communion with God, the universe, the spiritual realm, whatever you believe in, is a crime against humanity. It's truly blasphemy against God. The first thing you do upon having a divine connection early in the morning is interrupt it with a notification that brings the material world so present to you, brings the trivial problems so close, brings the things you think you need to deal with into the moment, when they don't need to be worried about, when they don't need to be dealt with this second. All these things. That's what we do when we check our phones in the morning. The morning should be seized. It is divine communion with God. And I'm not going to tell you how to live your morning. I'm going to tell you what I see in the morning. And I'm going to tell you how, personally, that is what destroys my mornings. And you can decide for yourself whether that's true or that is false. I think everyone is different. I think everybody needs to know thyself so that they can come to trust themselves. And all I can do is speak from personal experience. And all I can say is, for me to know myself, I had to spend hours, days, and weeks, months, even years, essentially alone. Essentially with no one in my material vicinity. I lived in California, in San Diego, for essentially 2 out of 3 years. And I didn't really hang out with anybody. One coworker on my last trip who I spent a good amount of time with. But other than that, nobody. Quiet, solitude was my stronghold. Quietness, books, writing, these videos. That is what I did. And I came to know myself. And now I'm in a position where I believe I can trust myself. So you need to do that for yourself. I've come to realize that all I ever preach in these videos time and time again is know thyself and trust thyself. Because that's all there is. That's all there is to do. To have the connection with your internal God and realize that you know what's best. If you just get rid of the fear, the uncertainty, the wanting to impress others, the fleshly desires, the earthly pursuits, you'll realize that you know exactly what it is that you want to do with your life. Exactly what it is that you want to spend your life doing, pursuing, the person you want to be, the things you want to do. But this takes time. It takes hard work. It takes welcoming the fear, not pushing it aside. It takes searching for the answers in the silence, for the things that you are most looking for and the silence that you are avoiding. As I said, I'm in northern Vietnam on a backpacking trip. It's been 2 months, so I haven't been posting as much. It's been pretty go, hectic. But I'm taking a week here in the mountains of northern Vietnam with a private room at a hostel in the mountains to get back on track, to get these videos out, to preach the divine wisdom that I believe has been shared with me, to read, to write, to do what I believe I've been put on this earth to do. And I'm here in northern Vietnam because I believe humans were meant to explore. I believe somewhere deep inside of me, I want nothing more but to create and to explore. So here I am exploring, and here I am creating. And my soul sings loudest when I am doing these things. And the feeling that that gives me is why I do this. Because I want you to have those same feelings. I want you to feel enthusiastic about life each and every day of your life. Because I've been ignorant, and I've thought I felt it. I've been ignorant, and I've known that there was more out there. And now that my ignorance is gone, at least in one facet of my life, I can see this is the better way of life. And I can see, though, it hasn't been easy, because nothing worth doing is easy. It has been the most worthwhile thing I've ever done. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I've always wanted to travel the world, so I travel in the world. I've always wanted to create, so I'm creating. I've always wanted to become the best version of myself, so I'm striving day in and day out to become the best version of myself. So do yourself a favor and become a person that you can trust. Become a person that can leap into the fear, leap into the uncertainty, and realize that no matter what happens, you have your back. And that's all you ever need. If you can become a person who is completely who will face down any obstacle knowing that you have your own back, the world is yours. And more importantly, heaven is yours. Know thyself, trust thyself.